Hello parents and professionals, and today I am going to be sharing with you how to help a young person make a decision. So if you need a particular strategy for weighing up pros and cons, just keep on watching. Okay, so I am going to share with you today a particular technique, if you like technique, is that the right word for this? Yeah, I think so. This is a particular technique that I used to use when I did the NLP for Kids Discovery Days. And I'm going to use the same example with you today only because I was thinking of this strategy around decision making earlier this week. And I remembered that I used to do it on the Discovery Day, but I couldn't remember what each element of the process was. So I went onto our YouTube channel and found one of our old Discovery Day videos, which is 7 years old, and I watched it, or watched about 10 minutes of it, and was flabbergasted by quite a few things. Number one, my posture was terrible. Number two was I was talking about, so this is 7 years ago, and in the video I was saying, and I'll insert a clip if I can find a way to do that, I'll do that for you. I was saying, I have a feeling that in the future, mental and emotional well-being problems for children and young people will increase. Do you think that we are predicting that mental health issues are going to be declining or increasing over the next few years? What have you heard?
I would say increasing.
Increasing? Is everyone getting along there? All right, so what we're seeing then is over time, mental health issues in young people are going up. And watching it back, I was kind of like, you think? Now, obviously, I didn't know everything that's happened in the last few years was going to happen, but it most certainly happened, didn't it? I mean, I am still flabbergasted that back then, 7 years ago, I was really pushing a mental health agenda and really wanting to make sure that children and young people were better protected and that the future would be brighter. But I had this anticipation that I wasn't going to be doing enough and that I could see an avalanche coming in my direction, and I felt like I was calling people to arms and saying, look, we need to do something about this, and not really getting the responses that I was looking for. And now now everybody knows what I was saying 7 years ago. But what do you know about the provision of services? And by provision of services, I mean the services that are out there to offer help to those young people. Is that going up in parallel?
No, it's going down.
So what we've got happening here is a gap. We've got a great big shortfall there. And the thing with that massive shortfall is ultimately that's not good news, that's bad news. However, for us as private services and providers of assistance for young people with mental health issues, this is something that actually we now fit into this gap because we're able to offer a timely service. Anyway, the point is I'm going to share the actual technique with you, and I'll use the example that I used then. The point of today's video is to say that particular process that I'm going to share with you is really very helpful when it comes to decision making and for having a very practical and logical way to weigh up pros and cons of perhaps taking action versus not taking action, of ecology, so what the consequences are going to be, both for individuals and elsewhere. So I think this strategy has a really useful way to kind of direct focus, but but also to increase motivation. Now, I don't know who to originally credit for this because this is not my strategy. I first saw this in a YouTube video, clearly way more than 7 years ago, where they were talking about climate change. And you know what? They were in the same position that I was 7 years ago, where they were saying, I think we might need to worry about climate change. This might become a real problem in the future. Well, here we are with me looking like I should be on a beach, and actually I'm just in Hemel Hempstead in England. So it looks like we were both right. Let me share this process with you. Okay, so here's what we do. I'm going to draw this so that I can talk you through it as I'm doing it, and I will put my doodle up on the screen for you to see it. So we create a cross on the page. At the top we have action versus inaction. And down the sides, for our example, we're going to have true and not true. Now, depending on what decision you want to help your young person make, your columns and rows might need to be labelled up differently. You need to assess with them what is the challenge, what is holding us back from making this decision. Is it whether we take action or not? Is it whether something is true or not? Is it whether we should do it now or later? Like, you need to weigh up what are these two things on different hands that need to go onto your columns / onto your rows. So in my case, the challenge that I am looking to resolve, or at least I was 7 years ago, is children's mental and emotional well-being problems are on the increase. Should we do something about it? All right, so that was my challenge back then. And this was a challenge that I would propose to an audience who came to see me on an NLP for Kids Discovery Day. So it was like they were thinking, well, maybe I'd like to be a franchisee. And I was like, you have to be a franchisee because the world is going crazy. So this was something that I used to sort of get them on my side. All right, so here's how it works. First of all, you look in your first quadrant, which in my case is that we take action, but I am wrong. Children's emotional and mental well-being issues, they aren't going to increase. Everything's going to be fine. What are the consequences of us taking action if mental health issues in children and young people are actually not on the increase? It was never true. Gemma got her facts wrong. The consequences are as follows. In my mind, at least, you might have some others. We might end up spending money on services that they did not need. All right, so that money could have been better spent elsewhere, maybe on preventing climate change. It could be the case that we, what else would be a consequence of taking action when it wasn't true? Well, we might end up making them even better. They might get more confidence than they would have had otherwise because we've gone and invested in these services that improve their mental and emotional health. It could cause them, a word we wouldn't have used back then, but would now, to have more resilience. So not all of the consequences would be negative ones. They could be positive ones as well. It could be, and this was an argument that used to come up at the time, if you go putting attention on a problem that somebody hasn't got, maybe it causes a problem. So if I said to you, come and do some confidence building workshops when you were already confident, it might cause you to go, oh, Gemma thinks I've got a problem with my confidence, so therefore now I'm going to have a problem. And you'd never actually had that problem had I have never said anything. So maybe, I don't think so, but maybe that would have been a consequence. So we could have ended up creating problems that didn't exist. Okay. Is there anything else? So we have taken action, assuming that children's mental well-being issues are increasing. We've gone and taken action, but we didn't need to. Well, here's the one that I used to say at the time, and that is, back then, we already had a problem. So even if the issues didn't increase, we still had issues at that time. It wasn't going to get rid of the ones that were already there. So if we didn't take any action. So by taking some action, for those who have issues, we help them, and we also help the generation that comes after them, because those people that have mental health challenges, like everybody else, tend to be breeders. And then that means that those two people go on and have 3 children, 4 children, or however many children, and before you know it, you have a larger population who have mental health issues because they came from parents who had mental health issues. So even if it were not true that the problem was increasing, there was still a problem even at that time. There must have been, because I was talking about it. All right, let's look at a different quadrant. So let's say it's not true. Mental health issues in children and young people are not on the increase, and we don't take any action. Well, one argument is things stay exactly the same. But as I've just explained to you, they don't, because the 2 people that had mental health issues have children, and that becomes now 8 people with mental health issues, becomes a family with mental health issues, and then those 8 people go on blah, 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 blah. So we sort of end up with this cascading effect through generations. So I would say the future becomes uncertain, because we were already starting with a problem. It might have been significantly smaller back then. It wasn't small, but it may have been significantly smaller back then. Either way, it was only ever going to get worse. Okay, next quadrant. We take action, and it's true, I was right. Mental health issues in children and young people were going to increase, but we took some action. So, what does that mean? It means it did cost us money. For sure. People had to dip into their pockets. What else? We would see that maybe there's going to be some societal improvements, some changes, because mental health issues don't just affect your mental health. They affect your education, and that means it affects your ability to get employment later on. It means that it affects your income, and that then affects your housing and so many other things. So from a societal perspective, we would be doing good stuff for the future if we invest in this now. What else would be true? If we took action, we would see that. Do you know what? This sounds like such a superficial thing, but I'm just going to say people will be happier. And that's nice. It would just be nice for people to be happier and have more fun. I think that's a really important thing. I think we would see that there would be less impact on family dynamics, or at least the impact would be a positive one, and maybe that means that there would be a reduced number of divorce and separation, or just trouble in families. Perhaps then that, going back to the societal stuff, would have an impact on crime in your local community. That would be good. That would be nice. It would be nice to walk down the high street and not smell weed everywhere, or see drunk people sitting in the road. Where I live, it's actually not too bad. It's quite nice. But more times in the last 2 years than at any other point in my life, I've picked someone up off of the street who was passed out in some way, shape or form. And smelt bad. I'm not going to lie, they smelt bad as well. And my town never used to be that way. And it doesn't make me hate the town. It certainly doesn't make me hate the people. It just makes me sad, because it means that those people ended up on a path that they probably didn't dream of going on to. That was not their dream. So I think being able to avoid that sort of stuff in our towns and our communities, or to be able to help those people turn their lives around, I think is really, really important. Okay, we're getting sentimental now. Let's go to our final quadrant. We say it is true. Mental health issues in children and young people are on the increase, but we don't do anything about it. What are the consequences? Well, we were so worried, weren't we, about spending all that money. But do you know what it's going to cost? Do you know what it's costing now? Have you seen the hit show that is CAMS? That's what it's costing now. So we might have thought we were spending money on all that preventative mumbo jumbo, but guess what? We're going to be spending a whole lot more in that clean-up operation. Ugh, makes me mad. Okay, it's true, but we didn't take enough action, or we didn't take any action at all. It's just all the bad stuff. It is the crime. It is the family breakups. It is the drugs, the alcoholism, the dependency. It is the unemployment. It is the disengagement from education. It's all of those things that happen, have happened, are happening, still happening, people. That's why we do NLP for kids. Okay, here's where the decision-making part comes in. This is what I used to say. This is what I used to say on the Discovery Day. I used to say, I might be wrong, I can't predict the future, and anything could happen. We could wake up tomorrow morning and aliens might have landed, and we might stop worrying about mental health in our children and young people. The world could change tomorrow. That's what I used to say. Well, it did. The world did change. And not in a good way. Not in the context of this problem, anyhow.
Is there anyone here that's heard of a service called CAMS in the past? Just some hands, yep. And it's the kind of assistance that you might get if you were to go to your doctor. They may refer you on to someone from the CAMS team that might be, say, a CBT specialist, maybe a psychologist, something along those lines. Now, those services are currently chock-a-block. They're really rammed, and they're not able to see people, in some cases, for up to 18 months. We've just opened a new premises for our business, which means that we have a high street presence now. And we've got people coming in off the street saying, well, what can you do for me? I've been on the CAMS waiting list for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months in some cases. So these young people that are really looking for help, they can't wait that long. Whereas we can see someone next week.
So when you weigh up what you've got in your 2 columns, the action versus the inaction, I know which world I would rather be living in. And that's why we're here today.
All right, now here's the thing. Realistically, we cannot predict the future. We don't know whether it's true or not true because we don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow, next week. We can make probably some fairly accurate guesses and accurate predictions, but anything could happen. But we do get to choose whether we take action or whether we don't. And I, for one, I prefer the prospects of what's happening here to what would happen over here.
I hope you found that a useful and interesting process. Please leave me your comments in the comments box down below. If you are not already subscribed to this channel, then go ahead and click the red subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, and make sure you like this video, and I will see you all again in the next one. Bye!